folks. Welcome to the next episode of Snowy's Camping Show. Joined by myself, Ben, and Lauren. Again, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm all right. You're not in the positive frame of mind today.
No, don't out me like that.
No?
No, I am in a good frame of mind.
Just
I
had
am.
a little bit of a can't be bothered moment.
Just
But
a
you're out
little
of it
bit.
now?
Just a little bit. Well, I'm actually, yeah. No, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good.
Moving on. If you haven't already done so, you can subscribe to our channel via YouTube on your favourite podcast app, and you can join in on the conversation at our Facebook group, which is called Snowy's Camping Banter. So if you haven't already joined that, jump in, request to join, and you can join a big community of campers, four-wheel drivers, hikers, everyone who loves the outdoors, sharing their experiences. So we've got a short episode today.
Yeah.
These are a series of short episodes where we if it's a customer question, we're giving away a stubby cooler and a sticker.
Yeah.
I don't think at the moment we've actually got any outstanding customer questions
No.
in there. So we're not giving anything away today. But if you do have any questions,
Get on and start asking them.
yeah, ask questions. So short, sharp questions, simple things that just need short, sharp answers that we try to keep as a short, sharp episode. Doesn't always work out. So we've got a few in here that are
I just want to take a step back though, because I just want to preface what your comment was earlier with the fact that I've
you don't need to defend yourself.
finished doing the Overland track in Tasmania last week for 8 days.
Yeah.
And now I'm just back in the real world. And there's quite a lot of stuff where I'm just like, man, I didn't have to put up with this in the bush.
Do you know, it's so cleansing for the mind to go and just be away from being plugged in for a while, because you do come back. I love that feeling of coming back and just going, there's a lot that really doesn't matter in my everyday life. And it's a
100%.
reset back to ground level and cleanse all the stuff that you're worried about.
No signal as well, except for when we're on top of a couple of summits, got a little bit of signal, and, you turn your phone on and there's just this crash of crap that comes through. Didn't look at any of it, just quick call with my kids, and check in with the family. That's it, put it away.
Yeah.
Didn't look at my phone other than taking photos. It was just so nice to not have signal and to just do anywhere sort of between 3 to 6 hours of solid walking a day, and then the rest of it,
Clear mind.
nothing.
I know I've been many, many years ago, we walked the Kokoda trek, and I remember coming back from that with a completely different view on life, because I saw people over there who were the happiest people I had ever met, and they were living in, by our standards, what we would call really substandard sort of situations or accommodation. But that's not that's not what they thought. They were living in luxury.
Yeah.
They had basic accommodation on stilts. They were living in an amazing location. They had friends, family. They had things to do each day. Kids were running around happy as anything, and they have, by our standards, nothing.
Yeah.
And it's this real realization of there's a lot we have that we don't need.
Yeah, and I mean,
to be happy.
I went with my brother, and I reckon one afternoon we sat on the helicopter pad at Pelly Hart, looking out over, the grass plain and the sort of moorland. There's Mount Oakley there and whatever. Like, arguably one of the most beautiful places on the Overland track, in my personal opinion. I reckon we sat there for 3 or 4 hours just until it went dark, and just didn't. Occasionally made a comment about the food we were eating, or, just a thought, but not really a huge amount of conversation either. Just being. Yeah. And it just makes you think. So we're starting this episode off.
This is like Ben and
This
Lauren's
is supposed to be a
self-help.
customer.
This is our self-help channel. You've tuned into the wrong one.
Yeah, but just, I don't know, just very sort of acutely aware of how much people have on their minds all the time, even when you don't think you do, you do. And I think, maybe that's one of the reasons why we're all here, right? We love the outdoors.
Yeah.
Similar sort of thing with camping. You can, especially when you're out of signal range, you can just switch off.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
So moving on to one of the questions.
I'm well and I'm happy. However, I'm in the modern world.
Moving on to a question that's maybe something that really doesn't matter that much, but we're going to talk about it anyway.
No, it matters. What is it?
It does. So this question, or the ones we've got in here now, are ones that we've just had commonly. It's not come specifically from someone of things we thought we'd just cover off. So it's probably a 5-minute episode. We're 5 minutes in. We're just getting to the question. So this, we framed this as, is 45 litres the right size fridge for one person? So I guess, what's the right size fridge for me. Now, I've got a 40 litre angle that I've had for many years, so I can sort of elaborate on that, but I'll let you go first.
Well, probably it's a good question in the sense that we get that question a lot. I reckon even just this week in the past, I've had 3 phone calls and, 1 email from a person looking at fridges, trying to decide what the right size is. Because obviously that's important, right? It's a big investment, a fridge. You're sitting around the $1,000 mark for your Engel or your Dometic brand type fridges. And it's a hard one to say unequivocally about, I reckon, to just go straight out yes or no.
Yep, I'd say so. To give you some context, it can depend on where you can put the fridge. If you've got space to put a big fridge and the power to run it, then get a big fridge. I travel just in my Nissan Patrol. So boot space is a premium. So I've got a 40 litre Engel that I've had for many, many years, still going. And there are times where that hasn't been enough. But if I got a bigger fridge, I would then have the problem of I don't have enough space in my car for a shorter trip.
Yeah.
So I can manage with a 40 litre fridge and a few tubs for food and stuff, and just having planning the food that you carry really well. So at some point it's really full and then you start using that straight away, so you can kind of manage what's inside the fridge, not too many beers in the fridge at any given time. Makes it not drink too many at night because I've only chilled 2 down.
Cans fit better than bottles, mate.
Cans, absolutely, yep. And that's just a single zone fridge. If I was to buy again, fridges out there that I think would probably suit me, and when I say me, I'm talking about me and my wife and my 2 kids. I think a 50 litre dual zone would cover just about everything for me. If I got a 95, that would cover absolutely everything. But then there's plenty of times where I'm running the fridge to cool down a lot of air inside because I don't need that space. This probably isn't really answering questions. I can see in a camper trailer where you've got a pull-out drawer and a massive space that you can fit a fridge, and you've probably got solar panels and everything to run it, then just get a big fridge to fit that space. That would be probably your best investment because you can keep it charged up.
Yeah, and I think the question, especially with dual zone, it also comes down to the kind of camping that you're doing, because if you're someone who might only be going away for a week, max, mostly weekends, do you really need to freeze anything?
No, I'll preface that by saying the dual zone, I would probably use both on fridge most of the time.
Okay.
Even to the point that I would have it on fridge, so I'm not using heaps of power, fill one side up with frozen stuff because it's going to last longer, let it slowly defrost and then use it as it defrosts. So I'm not keeping it frozen. I'm starting with it frozen. I'm running it as a fridge, so it's running efficiently. But when you run it as a fridge with frozen stuff in there, it still takes days and days to defrost anyway. So I'd probably operate it like that. But I wouldn't, if I was out back touring, I wouldn't be running a dual zone with a freezer trying to keep ice blocks cold, because I'd just be powering through solar, or, lots of battery power to keep it cold. But I think for a family of 4, at least a 50 litre would be good. For a single, this is a question here that we've written is 45 the right size for one person? Absolutely. That's heaps of space for one person.
Heaps of space. You wouldn't want to go bigger.
You probably almost wouldn't even need any other food storage if you could, for non-refrigerated stuff, but you could fit heaps of beers, wine and your food in a 45 litre fridge for one person.
Probably also depends on where you live in the country as well, right? Like if you live somewhere tropical and humid, there might be things that you could get away having in a dry store in other areas of the country that you couldn't get away with in Queensland, or vice versa. Like I think the things that I often find that sometimes with a fridge it can get really tricky getting exactly the right temperature or stacking it in exactly the right way to make sure that all the food that you've got in there stays good. Like if you're using any sort of like salad leaf or like coleslaw mix or anything like that, and it's not in the right position in your fridge, you can turn it to slop so quickly. So I think it's more so about thinking about the kind of food that you take camping, what you normally eat, the sort of stuff that you actually would put in a fridge. Using something like, like your 10-litre cubes of water, that's a really good visualization for space as well. Mm-hmm. So if you're thinking, 45-litre fridge, roughly think about what 4 of those 10-litre boxes of water, the volume of that is, and would you fill that up with fridge stuff? And if you wouldn't, then 45 litres is probably going to be too big.
Yep.
I think that we in the past have used a 40-litre fridge it was like an old Waco CF45, and just before they went over to Dometic, and that was like a 40-litre in real life. And I think we had that for a family of 6 that was really pushing it. It was a family of 4 that went to a family of 6. It was really pushing it. Then we went up to something like an 80-litre dual zone. And in terms of the fridge space, sure, but the actual size and weight of the fridge, so huge.
Yeah.
And then being able to sort of find a fridge slide, because it's really not functional to have a fridge that big, in my opinion, without it being on a fridge slide, right? Because to be able to position it in an accessible place where you could use it, it's like crazy without a fridge slide. Anyway, but getting a fridge slide that was big enough and strong enough to handle that, then it ends up taking up so much extra room. You know what I mean? There's so many other things to consider the bigger you go with your fridge, and like having to take it out and clean it between trips. And just in a lot of ways, I think whilst that size is good for a week-long trip for 6 people, for example, I really wish it wasn't.
Yeah.
Because it's not convenient.
Yeah.
So I think sort of I'm rejigging my camping setup at the moment, and I'm pretty sure I'm just going to go back to a 35, 45-litre fridge.
Yeah, okay. The other consideration with the dual zone is a lot of them now you can turn one side off. So if you've got an 80-litre fridge, it's taking a step back once again, start with the space in the car. Can you fit it in? If you've got it in there, can you access these points? Because a dual zone is going to you probably need to put it in sideways. You're going to be able to access that front section pretty easily. That back section is going to be a reach if you haven't got a slide. You put a slide in, that takes up an extra inch or 2 on each side, so suddenly you're taking up more space in your boot, so you've got to consider that. But I would consider the dual zones nowadays that have got like a nice – they're actually separate compartments.
Yeah.
You've basically got 2 40-litre fridges in there, and you can turn one of them off. So you could have a 40-litre fridge and 40 litres of just food storage in that fridge as well. So
you could use it like a dry store and it not, be totally bug-proof, dust-proof, all of that stuff.
And it's a bit temperature controlled. So your salads and stuff that you talk about where you don't need to be refrigerated, just needs to be cool, you could put that in your dry store while your other stuff's cold or frozen. So I don't think we're really answering this question in a straightforward answer here. There's a lot of it depends, but you need to have a look at what you can fit in your car and how you can actually use it. I know I've mounted my fridge up on a shelf and it bugs me. It's better that I've got better storage because I can store stuff under the fridge, whereas I can't store stuff on the fridge. I don't want to put a fridge slide in because it's an extra heap of weight and space. It
takes up room, yeah.
So it just means that to get to the fridge, I've got to hold the lid open and it doesn't open all the way because it hits the roof, but I've got better storage under the fridge rather than that wasted space above it. So there's always a compromise, right?
Yeah.
That's my compromise for my 40-litre fridge. So you need to think about all of those things. If you go and stick an 85-litre fridge in, you might not be able to reach the back. And if you want to use storage stuff on top of it, you're going to have to take all that stuff off if you need to get stuff for your lunch mid-trip because you've covered the fridge. Plus you've probably covered the airflow. So it's not as efficient.
I would say for 1 to 2 people going for up to a week, like 25 to 45 litres is heaps.
What about 4 people up to a week? Starting at 50? 50 to,
I would say
50 to 60?
Look, I would say you could get anywhere between, if you bring in an ice box into it as well, I'd say somewhere between the 35 to 60 litre, I reckon, for 4 people.
Yep.
Anything more than that, you're probably wanting to go bigger. Mind you, though, I know some people, like a single person who has like an 80-litre fridge because they part of their trips is hunting, right? So they need somewhere to, when they dress their meat, they need somewhere to store it. Like people's needs obviously are different. But when we're talking about general everyday camping or four-wheel drive camping, potentially even you've got a camper trailer, whatever, just generally camping, that would be my sort of rule of thumb. I would say 25 to 45 litres for 1 to 2 people, 35 to 60 for up to 4 people, 60 plus for more.
If you have got a camper trailer though with one of those voids and it just pulls out and it tucks in, then just get a big fridge.
Yeah, get a dual zone.
Dual zone, yeah, absolutely.
So then you can actually turn it off, because I don't think, because you could get a 60 litre single zone if you got a camper trailer because it fits, but then you have to use that whole space. So get a dual zone in that sense.
I used to be a little bit against dual zones because of the wasted space, but I think the flexibility is quite good that in the ones that you can turn half of it off because it still can be food storage.
Yeah.
You can still use that space and you're only cooling 40 litres instead of 80 litres.
Yeah.
So I think that's given a bit of a summary. Hopefully that answers some questions, helps you.
Yeah.
You need to have a think about where you're putting it and how you're going to use it. But that gives you a bit of a guide. Cool. 15-minute episode. That's pretty good.
Thanks, guys, with a bit of life advice in the beginning. Well, it wasn't really advice. It was just, hey, listen to me rant about my life.
We don't really have a self-help channel, by the way. But
no, but we should
so
maybe
we should
start one.
You reckon?
Yeah.
Ben and Lauren's totally uneducated self-help channel. Just
Ben and Lauren's opinions.
We reckon.
Which is what it is, really, isn't it?
We reckon you should. Yeah. All right, cool. Thanks, guys.
We'll
see you
later.
next time.